Hello guys, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about a trade proposal for Jack Eichel that absolutely blew my mind today, and for all the wrong reasons. Now this trade proposal comes from Blackhawk Up on Twitter, fan-sided blog, of course, for the Chicago Blackhawks. And when I saw this one, I couldn't really understand how anybody could think this was fair in its current form, and I knew I needed to talk about this. So, when it comes to this Jack Eichel trade proposal, what are the trade details in this one, and what makes this so bad of a trade? Watch till the end for all my thoughts, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now when it comes to the official trade offer here, again, I couldn't understand how anybody could rationalize this. Now, coming from their Twitter account, Blackhawk Up, they say this: Chicago gets Jack Eichel, Buffalo retains $3 million. In exchange, the Buffalo Sabres get Brandon Saad, Olli Maatta, the Blackhawks 2021 first round draft pick, and Blackhawks 2021 second round pick, as well as Montreal's 7th round pick in 2021. Now, personally, there is a lot of reasons why this doesn't work, but Jack Eichel going to the Chicago Blackhawks, in my opinion, just alone, doesn't make too much sense to me. Now, before we get into what Buffalo actually gets back in this trade, and I'm going to talk a lot about that as well, we first need to get into the actual cap space side of this thing, because to me it doesn't make any sense at all for Buffalo. Sure, on paper, it does work, and for both teams the cap space is fine, but it doesn't make any sense for the Buffalo Sabres to do. I don't see why they would do it cap-wise, especially the salary retention thing. I know that it needs to be done if you were to go Chicago, but it doesn't need to be done. He doesn't need to go to the Chicago Blackhawks, and Buffalo certainly does not need to retain $3 million on that contract. Sure, it's not as long as it was when it was signed, 8 years, but it's still a 6-year contract, 6 more years left on that deal, and who knows where Buffalo's in 6 years. A good example is the Maple Leafs, who are still paying salary retention to the Penguins for that Phil Kessel deal, and it is still on their salary cap. So for Buffalo, I don't see that as a good idea whatsoever, even if they were going to trade Jack Eichel, which I think that by itself is a pretty stupid idea at this point. Unless Jack Eichel specifically asked to be traded, I don't see Buffalo ever even attempting to get rid of him. And then we go into what Buffalo actually gets in this deal, and again, if a trade were to happen, the earliest it could happen is the draft. That is the earliest we could see trades happen. And to me, what Buffalo would get back just does not make too much sense. Now, you have Brandon Saad, who's a pretty solid player, has been really good over the past couple of years for Chicago, and I think would be a good top 6 guy for Buffalo. You got Olli Maatta, who had a pretty good bounce back here, could be a decent defenseman. 2020 first round pick, of course, by the Chicago Blackhawks, a second in 2021, and Montreal's 7th round pick. Now, again, if this were to change, obviously it would be different, but in my opinion, Chicago is probably going to end around the 8 to 10 spot in the draft. Even though the draft lottery is a thing, I don't see them winning it, obviously. If it was first overall pick, sure, it might be a different story, but if it's around the 10th overall pick, I don't think Buffalo even considers it. I think it's a laughable offer for them, if I'm completely honest. And that is assuming that Chicago loses versus Edmonton and also loses that draft lottery. But even if it was first overall, I'm not sure if Buffalo really considers it all that hardly, especially with that salary retention, and I just don't think there's enough young players from that deal to really be worth it. Sure, Brandon Saad is a good player now, but if you're trading Jack Eichel, why do you need good players now? Why would you ever even want that? Especially when you have guys like Brandon Saad and Olli Maatta who are getting into their 20s or late 20s now. I just don't see why Buffalo would want that whatsoever. If they were going to trade Jack Eichel, which I don't see as likely at all at this point still, they would want that first overall pick plus a couple of pretty great prospects and a couple of pretty great picks. To me, that would be what it would take at this point. And even then, Buffalo might still say no. And to me, that is the exact problem with all these Jack Eichel trade rumors, is that it's not going to happen. I mean, the earliest we can see a trade is draft day, and even then, until Jack Eichel says directly to the Pagulas, trade me right now, it's not going to happen. It is not going to even be considered, because there's no way the Buffalo Sabres, even though they are extremely dumb and extremely stupid, No way they trade Jack Eichel. He might be one of their best forwards, if not their best forward of all time, potentially. And to trade him at this point would just mean more rebuilding, which I think is the exact opposite of what the Buffalo Sabres want at this point. And if they were going to trade Jack Eichel, they would go in a more rebuilding route, right? So why would they want Brandon Saad and Olli Maatta? Sure, Alexis Lafreniere is pretty good, but if it's the 10th overall pick, who cares at that point? There is no way that happens. And let's just say for kicks and giggles that, let's say Chicago wins the 1st overall pick, they straight up, cap forgotten by the way, straight up give Alexis Lafreniere to the Buffalo Sabres for Jack Eichel. They give up that offer, say, hey, Pagulas, take this. I don't think Buffalo accepts. I don't think they really consider it all too much. Even though Alexis Lafreniere is freaking fantastic and is about as big of a sure bet of being a great NHL player as you can imagine, I still think Buffalo says no. And I think it would take a lot more than that too for it to actually happen. Jack Eichel is the Buffalo Sabres, and you know, I think it's oversaid that a team cannot afford to lose X player, but Buffalo really cannot afford to lose Jack Eichel. And when it comes to free agency or a trade, whatever, unless they got something extraordinary, like an Alexis Lafreniere, like an Ian Mitchell, like another 1st round pick in 2021. I really don't see it happening. It would have to be majorly prospect focused, majorly pick focused. But to have Brandon Saad and Olli Maatta, stop this right now, please. My brain cells are dying right now. I also love, by the way, that it says, remember, Buffalo gets more draft capital because they're keeping $3 million. You mean you added more picks onto that trade? Which makes sense because you are adding salary retention, so it is more value. But you tell me that you had less picks in this trade to start out with, right? For Jack Eichel. For Jack Eichel, right? Are we talking about the same player? Talking about the same player here, Jack Eichel? Okay. If you're gonna get Jack Eichel, right? If you're gonna get Jack Eichel, even if you were to request a trade, Jack Eichel, you can't just trade Brandon Saad, who's a decent middle 6 forward, Olli Maatta, who's a decent middle pairing defenseman, and a 1st round pick, which again, unless the NHL hates me, will probably be around 10 or so, a 2nd round pick in the 7th. For Jack Eichel, right? We're talking about the same player here. I think at the very least, again, no Brandon Saad, no Olli Maatta, Alexis Lafreniere, a 1st round pick in 2021, and a guy like Ian Mitchell. That's where the offer starts, Chicago. Just saying. And unless Stan Bowman is that stupid, which might be the case, I don't see this proposal even getting offered, even being thinking about offered, or even getting considered for being accepted. So, there you go. Dude, just imagine if the NHL sees this video and just gives the Blackhawks the 1st overall pick. Wouldn't that be funny? Anyways, don't quote me on basically this entire video of Chicago gets the 1st overall pick. Capiche? Capiche. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, boys. Try to go a little more of an entertaining take on this whole thing, so hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And of course, comment down below your thoughts on this trade proposal. Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair? Let me know your thoughts, and of course, share this video with friends. Get this trade proposal out there, no matter how bad, and click on this card right here to watch all of my trade rumor videos right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. I love you. Drink some water, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.